Welcome to Experimarketing, the podcast where we innovate, create, and appreciate. Powered by Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. Here's the host of Experimarketing, Chief Experimarketer, Colin Carasquillo.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, advertisers of all ages. How's everyone doing out there in the marketing and dealership world? I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Without further ado, let's bring on my trusty co-host, Matt Wilson. Hello.
Hello, Colin. How's it going?
How are you, Matt? I'm doing well. What's going on?
Nothing. I'm good. Another episode of Experimarketing. What do you got for us today, man?
Another episode of Experimarketing is correct. Today's episode 13. Lucky number 13.
Oh.
This episode's called, If You're Not Mobile First, You're Last. What do you think?
I think it sounds a lot like, if you're not first, you're last. Like Ricky Bobby.
That's right.
Ricky
That's
Bobby
a
reference.
classic movie. But no, today on the advertising side of things and in the dealership world, obviously we know that it's exceptionally, and I'll say it one more time, exceptionally important for a dealer to understand that advertising on a mobile device or making sure your website is mobile ready or mobile friendly, having a mobile first strategy is going to be, and it already is, the key to success moving forward with your dealership operations. Would you agree?
Yeah, duh.
Obviously.
It seems pretty clear to me, yeah.
I mean, it is pretty clear.
But Google Analytics right now.
And if I pull them up, know what I'd say? I'd see the majority of my traffic is coming from a mobile device.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Exactly. So if you're not mobile first, you're last.
That's right. And a lot of it, honestly, these are some things that on the dealer side, I can tell you do slip through the cracks for dealers, right? Depending on different web providers they might utilize, things like that. Now, different web providers would say, hey, our websites are responsive. But you'd be surprised if you end up going on some of the back-end tools of the web providers that you end up using, dealers, you'll see that your mobile site doesn't look exactly the same as your desktop site. And as a result, some of the key call to action, CTAs, all the different acronyms that we like to use out here are either hidden way far down a page, might not even exist on the mobile version of the site. And so these are some things. I mean, this wasn't really the topic of today about doing website audits, but I will say it now because we are talking about mobile first, that it's very, very important that dealers, you go to your vendor partners, your web providers, and you ask to see, or at least get access to the back end tools of these websites to look at what your desktop version of your site looks like and what the mobile version of your site looks like, because you might be shocked and it might not be good when you see some of the things that are going on. So that's just a little PSA. Now, enough of the PSAs. Let's start talking about what we're here to talk about, which is obviously smartphones, mobile first strategy. We have an expert from Dealer Marketing Magazine. This is Jack Nerad. Jack is the Chief Content Officer and editor of DrivingToday.com. He's an accomplished author. His most recent book, which, Jack, I'm going to ask you to help me out on this one. It's The GR Factor. Where can people go get the GR Factor? And then, of course, introduce yourself. Welcome.
Well, they can get the GR Factor wherever books are sold, actually. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's in local bookstores. It's published by E.M. Lancey, LLC publishers. So it kind of coalesces all that I've learned about management and marketing over the course of a fairly lengthy career. And I think it's pretty useful to people, or should be.
Awesome. No, we really appreciate you being on the show today and obviously lending your expertise to Dealer Marketing Magazine. You're a hand-picked expert on their panel, and you provided us with this incredible article that we're going to go through today, which is smartphones becoming essential marketing avenues. And that's not just for dealerships. I mean, this is an automotive-centric podcast here. But I think in reality, smartphones in general, they should be a something that people, business owners, any advertiser thinks about when it comes to their actual advertising strategy. So tell us, kind of what prompted this article and what's in here, and then we'll absolutely dig into it and, unpack some more items.
Sure. I mean, a couple of things prompted the article. I was talking to somebody who designs cars, a product planner, and they mentioned, and we kind of chatted about the fact that we don't talk about car engines anymore. We don't talk about transmissions so much. We talk about connectivity, and we talk about mobile phones. And it used to be that a symbol that a lot of people had was their car. They related to their car in a way that they didn't relate to any other consumer product. Now it's their smartphone. Now they can't be anywhere without their smartphone. Everybody uses their smartphone for everything except probably making phone calls. And it's ubiquitous, and it's ever present, and it's a major tool for marketers if they choose to use it.
No, absolutely. And I think that hits the nail on the head, is that it is a major tool. The fact of the matter is, as you had mentioned, these things are always by our sides, right? Literally. I mean, they're in our pockets. I have mine right next to me now. They're charging. I'll tell you so many times at home. And yes, I'm at 28. And look at Matt's on his phone too.
Can you guys hold on a second, please? This is way important.
Yeah, exactly.
Call,
so Matt's on his mobile phone as we speak. But the fact of the matter is this: we are so connected with our mobile devices, and you're absolutely right. Mobile devices have become a status symbol. I mean, hey, what model of iPhone do you have? Oh, is that the newest iPhone? And you do see how here's something that people have become so reliant on that, yes, if dealers take advantage of that in terms of making sure that they're advertising the right place, the right time, the right messaging on the right device, being a mobile device, these are the things that can set them up for success. So I think one of the things that I want to really highlight from the article is the fact that, yes, there's been this shift towards people utilizing their mobile devices, and that's been happening for years. I mean, we've seen that, as Matt mentioned at the opener of the show. You look at Google Analytics for a dealership's website, or any business's website for that matter, you're going to see a majority of the traffic coming from a mobile device. However, in wake of COVID-19 and the pandemic that has, hit the world and kind of knocked it on its bum, and luckily we're coming back from it, the shift towards and the reliance on smartphones during COVID-19. So can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I think it's even greater, right? I mean, most of us were pretty reliant on our mobile phones to begin with. But this isolation that we've experienced over the course of, it's close to a year now, has really exacerbated that, made it, much more important to people that they communicate with smartphones. And I think when you take that back to then marketing, the lifeline for most dealers over the course of April, May, June was frequently their ability to reach people online. And most of the time, whether they knew it or not, dealers were reaching people on individual smartphones rather than on desktops most often. You talk about that's where the traffic is. It's 100% where the traffic is. I see that every day. I'm the chief content officer for drivingtoday.com, and most of our traffic on drivingtoday.com is on mobile. So if you're not optimized for mobile, if you are looking at what you do through a desktop lens, you're missing out what the consumer is seeing about your business.
Right. No, and I think that's actually a perfect segue. So obviously the title of this episode is If You're Not Mobile First, You're Last. And there's a lot behind that, right? And so yes, a nice little play on words, but the fact of the matter is this: when you're talking about, hey, if you just look at it through one lens, which is the desktop lens, you're actually missing out on all of this other traffic, all these other opportunities to ultimately generate opportunities for business, right? For your actual dealership or whatever your business might be. So let's talk about a mobile first strategy, right? So in its core, can you explain to the listeners, to the dealers, because they might not get it? I mean, what is a mobile first strategy?
Well, most people are looking, when they see their website presented to them by their website provider or whoever's designing the website for them, they're probably going to see a desktop experience, right? Mm-hmm. That's going to be presented to them. And here's the beautiful desktop experience. And then maybe at the last 5 minutes of that hour meeting, they're going to take a look and, here's what mobile looks like. Here's what it looks like on mobile. And you click through. And if you paid a lot of attention, you would realize it's very, very different, right? I mean, a mobile device has a different form factor than a desktop. So it will emphasize different things. What it has done with Driving Today is basically it makes the slider at the top of Driving Today on the desktop, that's essentially the whole site that people are seeing when they go on driving today on a mobile device. We use an adaptive responsive kind of situation to enable that, but we're paying attention to it. And if you're not paying attention to it, you might not know what your site really looks like to most of the consumers who are going to your site. And that's kind of crazy.
Shouldn't the website providers, when they're pitching you a website, reverse it and start that way? Because you make a great point. I've just recently sat through a bunch of website pitches again on behalf of one of my clients, a client of my agencies, and they really should do it the other way around. Here's your site, and go through the mobile stuff and be like, oh yeah, and by the way, here's what it looks like on a desktop. Like, why don't we reverse it that way?
I mean, you're so right, man. I mean, that's exactly the way it should be, because that's where the audience split is. I mean, if you're going to do 70-30 or whatever it is, and I think our audience on driving today is 70-30 or something like that, mobile to desktop, it only makes sense that you would spend most of the time seeing what the mobile presentation was versus the other presentation.
Hey, Colin, I'm thinking, like, as a dealer, when you're thinking like, oh, I'm not happy with one of the sites at my store, is the first thing you do hop on your computer and say, let me check out these other store sites? But you're looking at their desktop. That's not as important.
Right. So I will tell you, I mean, from personal experience, and sometimes this is what really grinds my gears with some of our vendor partners. And listen, I rely on them greatly. I mean, as you know, I'm the army of one over here at the Nielsen Automotive Group, 9 dealerships. It's a lot to look at. And I also rely on our respective general sales managers or boots on the ground at each respective store to let me know when something's not looking good or, can be optimized better. But I will tell you, yes, in some instances, something will go catastrophic on one of our sites. And then I say, okay, I fixed it on this site. And this was now something I've learned. And I fixed it on that site. But guess what? When it went catastrophic on that site, it also went catastrophic on all of our other dealership sites. And then I would say, okay, that didn't happen. Like, whatever, that site's fine. But no, that's not the case. So then, yes, you start looking at every single site because you say, hey, this needs to be optimized or fixed there. That's it. I mean, plain and simple. So with that, I think one of the things, that we often look at, I just want to unpack a couple other things, by the way, because Jack, you had mentioned some really good points. And then Matt, of course, you followed up with, shouldn't it be, you build out a mobile site first? I think one of the things that I want to follow up first, Jack, what you said is that on your website, right, that essentially the head navigation, the search function has become the actual majority of what people see on their mobile device. And I don't think that's, people don't get that, right? So I'm holding my phone up for those that are listening. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, I don't have the newest iPhone. This screen is quite small. And in reality, what dealers need to do is they need to optimize their websites to ensure that the profit centers, their main profit centers, are front and center on the website. So yes, it might be all good and well on your desktop to have your, slideshow or hero rotator at the top showing all of your specials. But the fact of the matter is, people, when they get to your website, most likely want to search your inventory, most likely might want to value their trades, apply for finance, or get credit applications. So you need to make sure as a dealer, even service the schedule a service appointment, that all of that is front and center on your mobile device, which is that mobile first strategy. So yes, in reality, it's super, super important to look at your mobile device and your website on mobile. And I would even say more so than looking at it on desktop, right? I mean, that's
absolutely. And the screen isn't only smaller, it's also a different shape, right? I mean, people are looking at their screen and they're looking at a vertical. They're looking at a vertical rectangle. It's essentially quite the opposite of what you're seeing on the typical desktop. So the things that are emphasized on the desktop might not even be visible. And when you're using adaptive responsive, and a lot of people say, well, that's the solution. But adaptive responsive is going to pick pieces of your website to emphasize. A lot of times it'll take the rotating carousel at the top, and that has become essentially, as I say, kind of the entire Driving Today site on mobile, which we're okay with because we understand that that's the case. But you're missing all the other content, essentially the major menu that goes across the full site when you are looking at the desktop, and that's equally true on a dealer site, maybe more so. You want to get your customers into the things you would like them to do: value their trade, look at your inventory, do those things, communicate with you, or schedule a service appointment for that matter. Those things should be upfront and really accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things too that I want to bring up is that this is not just customer facing in the sense that, well, I mean, it is, but let me try to spit out what I'm trying to say better, which is from a dealer's perspective, when you're looking at actual follow-up too with the customer, right? So let's say someone submits a lead on a specific vehicle. The dealer obviously will conduct follow-up to try to get the individual to convert at their store. What people need to understand, and we learned this the hard way at the Nielsen Automotive Group, was most likely all of that email correspondence or text messaging or whatever it is obviously done on a mobile device. So when you're sending dealers, this is for you, these outdated, antiquated, templated email responses saying, hey, thank you for your lead submission on X, Y, and Z, and it's 5 paragraphs long. No one's reading that on a mobile device. So one of the key takeaways that I want dealers to have after listening to this is not only is it imperative that they look mobile first for how their website looks for their customers, but also in their follow-up, they are hyper cognizant of the fact that things should be bullet pointed, things should be stacked instead of, these long paragraphs with all of this information that then, gets shrunken down to the size of an ant on a mobile device. I mean, it's just really relevant in terms of every part of the operation. I mean, would you agree?
I'd agree 100%. Absolutely, 100%. You have to realize how people are going to be using the communication. And it's such a chance to either satisfy or dissatisfy, right? I mean, you are requesting that the consumer talk, and then they talk to you, and then you talk to them, or you talk to them in a way that they don't understand, or it's onerous for them, it's difficult for them to deal with. That's going to be a turnoff. I mean, right. You got that first chance to make that great impression, right? And you've blown it because you haven't communicated in the proper way. Sometimes you haven't communicated at all, which is a major turnoff. But if you do communicate and it's not proper, you've shot yourself in the foot. You've made it worse for yourself. You're advertising for your competitors, really.
Right. Absolutely. No, that's a really good perspective. I mean, yes, if you're not working on enhancing the customer experience, right, then essentially you're giving free advertising or you're working for your competitors. So another really great segue there, Jack. I think it's almost like, we've planned this thing. But the fact of the matter is this, when you look at enhancing customer experience, right? So we know we've done previous episodes of Experimarketing. Customer experience, just like digital retailing, is this big buzzword for, it was 2020, now 2021 and beyond, right? So with customer experience, many people are saying that that's the next competitive battleground, all right? When everything is apples to apples, and when I mean apples to apples, the Jeep Grand Cherokee I have on my lot is the same as my competitor has on a lot down the street. So we really need to set ourselves apart with customer experience. Now, did you see a mobile first strategy playing into enhancing a customer experience? I think you touched on that.
I do. And some of it is personalization, and some of it is just being aware of the medium that you're delivering your messages on. Because who was it? Marshall McLuhan, I think, said the medium was the message, right? I mean, sometimes the medium is the message. And if your message is not proper for that smartphone that somebody is holding in their hand, for whatever reason, like long text paragraphs, for example, those kind of things you talked about, you're messing up. You're not putting your best foot forward. And the other thing to do is actually deliver on what you say you're going to do. A lot of times there's a great deal of disappointment when people go online, however they go online, but they're going online on their smartphone, and they do something like price a car, get some kind of belief that they know what that vehicle is going to cost, and maybe even go down a little bit down the path of submitting a lead and doing something about that. And then when they get to the dealership, they're at square one. Nobody's heard of them. They have done nothing. And what's been promised them online is completely different. It's a different experience when they get into the dealership. And that's just not treating people the way they want to be treated, right? I mean, that kind of goes back to my book. The GR factor is simply treating people the way they would like to be treated. And that's been good business since the dawn of time. And it's good business now, and it's good business online.
Is there a, I mean, also behind the fact that we're talking about enhancing customer experience, I'll give a couple examples. There's a test that I like to run over here, and it's called the mom or grandma test. And essentially you say, hey, mom, go on this website and see if you can navigate through X, Y, and Z. Well, if it's too tough for your elder or, whoever that is to navigate the site, most likely you have not, or you are doing a disservice to the customer, because you are making these friction points, which in theory, we're trying to remove the friction, but you're making it harder for them to actually, make it or get to the points that you want them to get to. So your VDPs to convert to vehicle details page, another acronym out there, to convert, to get them lower down the funnel. I mean, in terms of, what we're looking at with mobile first strategy, aren't there other things too, in terms of, let's say, optimizing avenue or for revenue, for advertising, things like that, making sure the experience is good so people are converting, you're getting a better return on ad spend?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people who design websites, a lot of people who code, want to do things in a different way.
Right.
The consumer is used to doing things in a conventional way, right? I mean, we don't have a different alphabet each day for each person we talk to or something like that. We don't use a different language. I'm lucky enough to speak in English, and that's about it. I wish I could speak more languages, but I don't. So the conventional approach is the right approach, but a lot of people who design websites want to do things a different way. That's creative to them. That's something that kind of gets their juices going. Well, you don't care about getting their juices going. What you care about is understanding how to navigate your site, get the information they need that portrays you well, and become a literal customer who walks in the door and buys something. And that's the conventional approach is the right approach. You can be creative with how you communicate in terms of the words you use and those kinds of things. But in terms of navigation and that kind of thing, be absolutely conventional. I mean, that's my recommendation.
No, that's a great recommendation. Now, Matt, let me ask you from the agency perspective, because this is why I love this dichotomy, because Matt sits on the agency side, I sit on the dealer side. Matt was at the dealer side at one point. I'm now at the dealer side. So we have these great back and forths. Matt, from an agency perspective, when you guys are building out your advertising campaigns for your respective clients, is mobile first something that you guys are working or looking at when you're building out these ad campaigns?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because you're looking at mobile metrics first as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like I mentioned earlier on about like the website pitch. Like you need to just turn it upside down. If you're looking at mobile, like you're presenting mobile metrics first, you're building mobile first, then you start to think about it that way. But if you think about all the different device types and the different, ads and tactics that are out there, most of them are mobile, right? I mean, more people are on Facebook on mobile, more people are Google searching on mobile, more people. I mean, I do more stuff on my, not your phone, but my example, my phone is huge. Like, what do I need a tablet for? I got a giant
TV.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me hold my television to my, but yeah, absolutely. And you have to, I think you have to, I was thinking, I don't want to get off topic, but just thinking real quick, like for your dealerships, like what percentage do you think is traffic is mobile? Is it 50-50? Is it 70?
No. So,
80?
I mean, we'd be aligned basically. So this is the really interesting thing. So let me preface it with this. We have, like I said, 9 dealerships. And although we're all located in New Jersey, the actual demographic and psychographic and usage factors vary, now slightly granted, but by the markets that we're in. So where I physically sit, East Hanover, New Jersey, is a very affluent, densely populated area. Okay. We have a sister store, which is in Rockaway, New Jersey, less affluent area, still densely populated. Now, if we shoot all the way north to, let's say, rural New Jersey, up there, I always joke there's more cows than people. It's actually a little different. We're seeing a little more desktop traffic compared to mobile traffic just because of the demographic factors out there. But on an average, I would agree with Jack, similar to his drivingtoday.com, that we most likely are seeing about 70-30, 70% mobile, 30% desktop. Obviously, if we were to really get granular, there are slight differences. It's always usually 60% or over for mobile, but you see how that can fluctuate. And then a very, very small percentage on tablet. And when I say small percentage, I mean, it could be anywhere from 5 to 8%. But I mean, that's if we're getting super, super granular. But all signs would point towards mobile first. Does that make sense?
Yes. Good answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the correct answer.
All right. I try sometimes. Sometimes I fake it until I make it, or at least pretend to get it right here. So with that, we always like to, on Experimarketing, we hear what's going on. Jack, we get your input in terms of, your expertise. How do dealers apply the mobile first strategy? And this might be a really great way to kind of come full circle, because we unpacked a couple things. So we unpacked, obviously, the fact that mobile device usage is up, continues to increase, right? Has over the past 5 years, will continue probably 5 years and then some, right? So increase in mobile usage. Obviously, increase in reliance on mobile devices during COVID. And even before that, there was this shift towards this reliance on mobile devices. We talked about dealership websites. We talked about dealer advertising, right? Ultimately trying to drive people to those websites and getting a better return on their investment or return on ad spend. So with that stated, Jack, you talked about a couple great things in terms of be conventional, and that was your recommendation, that just because your web provider wants to do something one way, you actually need to please your customer. It doesn't matter what your web provider wants to do. So what recommendations, or how do dealers apply mobile first? What can you tell us?
Well, I think a couple of things. One thing is, remember where the mobile device is going to be used to. You might have a customer go on your website while he's sitting in another dealership, literally, right? I mean, that could happen. It happens every day. It's happening right now as we speak. So be aware of that. And that also prompts you to probably be more responsive than you would otherwise be to those kind of requests, right? If somebody is sitting and about to be closed, perhaps, and wants to you do a little price check, or could be persuaded to buy somewhere else, well, don't you want to reach that person? Absolutely, I think you do. And you're only going to do that on mobile, right? That's the only way to do that. But the other thing beyond that, and maybe a larger thing dealers should be aware of, is there is a lot of impetus now of online buying, right? I mean, instead of maybe kind of thinking, at least in the consumer's mind, we're going to circumvent the dealer. I don't have to talk to a car salesman. I'll just buy the line. Well, we all know that vehicles cannot be purchased from the manufacturer. They're going to be purchased from a dealer. So the dealer should be looking at branding their experience, making the online experience, even all the way to a complete transaction, a great experience. There are ways to do that. And being cognizant of the fact that maybe the customer doesn't want to go that route, but they want to do all the tedious stuff on their smartphone while they're sitting in their pajamas, eating popcorn and watching a movie, right? Who wants to sit in a dealership for 3 hours on a Saturday morning? None of us do. I mean, even people who work in dealerships don't want to be there for 3 hours on a Saturday morning, right? So getting that stuff done, and to the extent that you can get that stuff done and then pick it up in the dealer's place of business, just to finish things up, kick some tires, go, yeah, that's the one I wanted. And yeah, this is the deal I wanted, and I'm ready to go. That's golden to everybody. That's really efficient for the dealership. It's really efficient for the customer, and it's treating the customer the way they want to be treated.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm going to actually reference some of the things that you had put in this article. So here's some statistics for folks, but I just want to really drive the point home, because you bring up a lot of really valuable information about cross-shopping when a person's in a dealership, about the reliance on smartphones, how many people are doing research, the fact that they can do the research on their couch in their pajamas. You wrote that in here, which I think is really, really great. It's clever. It's similar to the fact that it's like ordering a coffee from Starbucks. You can do it it from home, and then all you need to do is just go pick the thing up when it's ready. But here's some statistics. So you had referenced Ad Colony. Ad Colony did a car buying survey in 2020. Okay, this was the USA here that you had referenced. And it said that once people have narrowed the search of their top choices of brand or dealership, or let's say brand, they then use their smartphones to find a dealership location. That's 60% of car shoppers do that. All right. That was actually a 20 percentage point jump over 2019, where it was 40% of people that use their smartphones to find dealership locations. So one, we're seeing that just in 1 year, there was this massive 20% jump of activity of people using their mobile devices to find location of a dealership that they wanted to do business with. Why I bring this up is this brings up another really good point that we've discussed on previous episodes, but Google My Business listings, right? This is imperative then for dealers to make sure that their Google My Business listings, or any listing for that matter, is optimized, that your addresses are correct, that your phone numbers are correct, that your hours of operation are correct. So not only am I going to challenge dealers after this episode to make sure that they're looking at their websites on both desktop and mobile, but I'm also going to challenge dealers to go look at their Google My Business, type in your dealership name, see if that little Google My Business profile pops up. If it doesn't, or if it does and you says you don't own it and you need to verify it, dealers, verify your business Google My Business profile, make sure all the hours are correct, everything like that. But Jack, when you see that, right, the transition or that jump in 20 percentage points, I mean, is that something that surprises you? Or are you saying this is it? It's inevitable?
I think it's inevitable. It surprised me, maybe the extent of it, because that's a big jump, right? 20 percentage points. And I think if you into the percentage, and I'm no mathematician, I'm a writer, but it's a big percentage, right? It's a lot of people making that shift. And I think what we've experienced is just emphasize the fact that the device that we have in our pocket is our key to pretty much every bit of information. Right? We Google everything. And many of us can't find our way home without getting directions from our phone, even though potentially we know where we live and we know the neighborhood in which we're driving. And we've become so reliant on this device, and it's not a bad thing. It's a real opportunity for dealers who use that to their advantage, to put the right information in front of people. Accurate information about their store hours is a really good one to begin with, getting their phone numbers correct and all that stuff correct. And then being responsive to people who send messages that way. Mm-hmm. We're messaging all the time, right? Everybody's messaging all the time. If you message a dealer and nothing comes back, well, what does that tell you about the dealer? Or if you message a dealer or send an email to a dealer and you get a message back 3 days later, maybe that's even worse. I don't know. Good.
Right.
You have great opportunities to interact with people on a one-on-one basis efficiently using electronic devices. So use them. Don't scratch your head and go, I can't deal with that. It's too much effort.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, there's a lot that comes out of what you wrote here. There's a lot of opportunity for dealers to, like I said, focus really mobile first, really ensure that the experience that they're providing to their customers on a mobile device is optimized, is up 100, is up to par, is 110%, that, they're really focusing on that. So with that, Jack, I want to read one of the things that you put in here, and you kind of touched on it, but I just want to say it again because it's very important for this episode here. So you were talking previously in the article about millennial shoppers, the respondents in this Ad Colony survey, right? So we're looking at a younger demographic. And now, yes, millennials, that's that coveted, demographic that advertisers or automotive salespeople are going after. Now you even got to start focusing on Gen Z. I mean, the generation after them, the youngest Gen Z now is like 24 years of age or coming up to that, not youngest, but oldest are 24 years of age. Let me correct myself there. They are going to have some disposable income at some point in time. And, we're millennials. I'm a millennial myself. We weren't born with these in our hand. We learned and we adopted the technology. Gen Z, literally, it's like they came out of the womb and someone was like, here's a phone, so they've known that all of their lives. And so it's just showing how much more important or how relevant this mobile first strategy will continue to be. But anyway, this is what you write. Their phone is their lifeline. Their heartbeat, the heartbeat of their existence. From vehicle research to price shopping to dealer selection, Americans turn to their smartphones to guide the buying process. On the leasing edge, more consumers than ever are using their phones to make a car purchase and schedule delivery. Not only can you research and buy a car from your couch in your pajamas, but now you can buy a car on a phone app, just like ordering a specialty beverage from Coffee Bean. Now, we don't have Coffee Bean by us, but hey, you can fit in Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks. I think that's pretty profound. So with that, Jack, we want to thank you. You have any final thoughts for us before we say au revoir, and we'll see you next time on Experimarketing? What do you got for us, Jack?
Well, all I have really is the smartphone is very important, but the personal touch is equally important. If you can combine the two, you really have the magic recipe, I think, for success.
That's it. You heard it here, folks, guys. The recipe for success, not losing that personal touch, but combining the fact that mobile first and personal will be the key to success moving forward in 2021 and beyond when it comes to your dealership's advertising. Jack, thank you so very much. Everyone, go check out Jack's work on drivingtoday.com, where he's the chief content officer and editor. You got a lot of stuff on your plate, man, but God bless. That's awesome. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Thank you, Jack. Thanks for being on. We'll see you next time. All right, Matt, what do you think, man? Oh, no, you're muted. I think you muted yourself. Technical difficulties. Nope. All right, so I'm going to pretend Matt's saying, hey, he doesn't know. Great episode, Colin. You did a really good job. Thought it was one of your best episodes ever. Oh, Matt, thank you. You're so sweet. Anyway, Matt's doing what he usually does, which is just sit there silently because his mic is muted. So anyway, folks, thank you very much. What we'd like to do is thank our sponsors at Dealer Marketing Magazine. That's dealermarketing.com. Also like to thank our sponsors at All In Marketplace. All In Marketplace is your go-to shop for influencers, where we connect advertisers and influencers. And also Jim McCarthy at Jim McCarthy Voiceovers, who did that kick-ass intro for Experimarketing. That is another episode of Experimarketing. If you're not mobile first, you're last. We hope you got something out of it, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.